Ellen 24/7 lights up your day with unbeatable shows that guarantees absolute access to stories that revolves around politics, entertainment, and sports, breaking news, plus detailed reports and analysis. At Ellen 24/7, where the story goes, we go.
Stay up to date with Ellen 24/7. Ellen 24/7. With news, politics, business, sports, and more on Ellen 24/7. Where the story goes, we go.
Ten years have passed since the horrifying abduction of 276 schoolgirls from the government girls' secondary school in Chibok, northern Nigeria, by the terrorist group Boko Haram. This tragic event sparked global outrage and brought attention to the plight of the victims and the broader issue of terrorism in Nigeria. As this solemn anniversary is marked, it is essential to reflect on the impact of the Chibok abduction and assess the progress made in addressing the underlying issues that led to it.
We shall redouble efforts to ensure that we fulfill our pledge of bringing the remaining girls back home. Already, the credible first step has been taken, and government will sustain the effort until all the remaining girls return safely. These 21 girls will be given adequate and comprehensive medical, nutritional, and psychological care and support.
The Chibok abduction had profound and far-reaching consequences, both nationally and internationally. It highlighted the vulnerability of school children in conflict zones and exposed the brutality of Boko Haram's insurgency. The hashtag Bring Back Our Girls campaign galvanized global support for the victims and their families. But despite widespread condemnation, many of the girls remain missing to this day.
On one hand, hope has been rekindled because you saw them, you've seen 15 girls, they're looking well. We don't know what they've gone through, but at least they're alive and they're looking well, so we're happy about that. Their parents have identified them, and so hope has been rekindled, but at the same time, the heartbreak has come again. And unfortunately, the parents whose children were not there are devastated. All the parents in Chibok today, they're at the school, they're having a program to mark today and to demand and pressure the government and beg the government to do whatever it can to bring their children back.
The psychological trauma inflicted on the survivors and their communities continues to reverberate, underscoring the urgent need for comprehensive support and rehabilitation efforts. Despite efforts made by Nigeria's security forces over the years, the challenge of schools being a soft target for terrorists persists. The latest being the Kuriga school abduction of more than 200 school children in Chinkun Loga of Kaduna State. On today's episode of The Agenda, we wade into the controversies and allegations surrounding the Chibok school mass kidnapping to set the record straight 10 years after, with many still in captivity.
Well, thank you for joining us on another edition of the program. And yes, we will be taking a look at the Chibok school abduction, reflecting on the impact and progress after a decade. My name is Henry Williams. Welcome to The Agenda. And on today's program, we're taking a look at some of our talking points on the program. We're revolving around the politics behind kidnappings. We also will be looking at impact of abduction on victims, as well as advocacy for victims of kidnapping. Well, there is so much to unpack on today's edition of the program as we mark 10 years since the Chibok school kidnapping that took place in April 2014. Our guest is Emmanuel Ogebe. He's a human rights activist, and he will be joining us from Washington, D.C. in the United States of America. Well, getting to know who this gentleman is, Emmanuel Ogebe Esquire is a prominent U.S.-based international human rights lawyer in Washington. Was exiled to America after abduction and torture by late dictator Sani Abacha for protesting the assassination of pro-democracy icon Kudirat Abiola over the Nigerian 1993 election. Now in diaspora, advocating in multiple continents, including Europe, North America, Asia, Africa, Australia, and the Middle East. He played a role in shaping U.S. congressional and foreign policy in Nigeria's quest for a stable democracy. His dogged defense of a Nigerian citizen trafficked abroad and sentenced to death pro bono for 15 years led to victory at Indonesia's Supreme Court, which freed him in December 2023. And with that, just in a nutshell of what this gentleman is all about, I'd like to welcome Barrister Ogebe, Emmanuel Ogebe, to the agenda.
Hey, thank you very much, Henry. It's always a pleasure to be with you.
Great to have you, Barrister, and on a fateful day like this, we're marking 10 years since the kidnap of Chibok schoolgirls took place here in northern parts of Nigeria in April exactly. Looking at the situation, there are events that have taken place today in respect of, what happened on that fateful day. Talking about this, let me take us to that event by the Muritala Mohammed Foundation. I do believe you were part of that conversation today.
No, I wasn't part of any conversation today. As you know, I'm in Washington, D.C., and it's morning right here now. So whatever events you were referring to may have been in Nigeria, where it's evening.
All right, let's quickly take a look at the timeline before we delve into these issues that you are seeking to unravel before us. You are pained by some narratives that you want to set straight. Let's look at the timeline of the Chibok school kidnapping. In 2014, 276 abducted Chibok schoolgirls. With that, 57 escaped shortly after the abduction. And then in 2018, Salome Koju, she was rescued on January the 4th. Moving on, we had 276, still talking about the abduction of the girls. In 2017, Rikia Gali Abubakar, she was released, 82 released after negotiations on the 6th of May. And in 2016, Amina Ali Nkeki, she was May 17th, was released along with 21 girls, which were also released on October the 13th. Miriam Ali Meyanga was released on November the 15th. So I'm trying to take us on a journey here. And so far, we've had 185 Chibok girls returned and 91 still missing. Well, can you confirm that, Barrister Ogebe?
Let me clarify for you here. Some of what you said was slightly inaccurate. The first girls to escaped within 24 to 48 hours of the abductions. Those were 57 girls. Now, the first girls to escape after that was actually Amina Ali, who escaped in May 2016. So that was 2 years after the abduction. And then the next girls who were released were actually released by negotiations, prisoner exchange, and ransom, as I stated the article which I released last week. And those were 21 girls. And then after that, Miriam Ali Nga escaped also in 2016. So that is the proper sequence of the first few escapees and those released.
Okay, was released in 2016. Miriam Ali Mayanga. Okay. All right, you have given the proper narrative there. Can you confirm in 2022, about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, over 10 of those girls were still released?
Well, in 2022, I'm not sure the actual number that emerged in 2022. But again, there was no release. There has been no release since 2017. The last release of Chibok girls was in 2017. There have been only 2 releases of Chibok girls in the history of Nigeria. The first release is the one I referred to you now. In 2016, 21 Chibok girls were released under a prisoner swap and ransom arrangement, where 21 were released. And then the second batch of 82 were released in 2017. That's it. In 2022, about 2 or 3 girls were subsequently escaped and were recovered by the Nigerian military. In 2023 again, another 2 or 3 girls were similarly recovered by the Nigerian military.
All right, Barrister Ogebe, you were part of the hashtag BBOG movement, and you have made some assertions claiming that the United States did not, the United States of America, the American government did not, how do I put it now, said free these girls. It was the Nigerian government. You were very pained by the narrative brought by the book, Sisterhood, The Secret History of Women at the CIA by Lisa Mundy. And you really want to set the record straight on the narrative that she brought about, talking about the CIA being instrumental to the release of these girls. Can you share your thoughts with us on this?
Yes, so let me be very clear. I'm a human rights lawyer. I have been for over 30 years. I have fought military misrule in Nigeria. I have fought democratic misrule in Nigeria consistently for that entire period of time. America has been an ally in some of the struggles to enthrone democracy in Nigeria. America has been helpful in providing me political asylum when my own country imprisoned and tortured me. So it is very sad for me to see a situation where America is lying about rescuing Chibok girls, which they did not do. I was very shocked when a dear friend and colleague, an American law professor, drew my attention to a publication that claimed that the CIA rescued 30 Chibok girls, a book that was released just a few months ago, which you just referenced, The Secret History of Women in the CIA. And when I read it, it was just full of falsehoods. Nothing like that happened. And what that tells me is this is another example of white appropriation. I don't know what it is about this Chibok story that people are just crawling out of the woodwork trying to claim what is not theirs. The fact of the matter is that when it comes to the release of those 103 girls, there are three heroes who were responsible, who were the remote catalyst for the freedom of those 103 girls. As I said in my article, one was the media, and most especially CNN. How did that happen? CNN leaked the video, the proof of life video of the Chibok girls that Boko Haram had given to the Buhari regime and asked them to pay ransom and release prisoners so that the girls would be released. And Buhari refused to watch the video and refused to act on it since 2016. That he didn't want to be emotionally disturbed, so he refused to watch it. So CNN obtained it and released the video to the public. And when the entire world saw the children begging for their lives for the first time since 2014, it touched a nerve. I was in Abuja at the time, and I was with the parents of the children who were shown on the video, and the whole world saw it. And so there was an outcry, and pressure was mounted on Buhari to do something about the children. That was one factor. The second factor was the appearance of Amina Ali. After 2 years in the forest, Amina escaped and came out with her baby. And when her baby was seen, and everybody saw that these girls were still alive, and one of them was able to come out, again, the world was touched. It went round the world. I remember waking up that morning, my phone rang. A journalist from London called me. Can I confirm that a Chibok girl just came out from captivity? I woke up, I called my contacts in Nigeria. Fortunately, I was in touch with Amina's family and all of that, and they confirmed to me that it was Amina. So it had a reverberative effect around the world. So that put pressure. And then thirdly, the global Bring Back Our Girls campaign. In the United States Congress, myself, the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, Congresswoman Frederica Wilson, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, so many people came together to mount pressure. These were the factors that forced Buhari to take it seriously and bring these girls back. So for the CIA to now come and claim that they organized an operation and rescued 30 girls is false. It was 21 girls that Buhari paid for their rescue.
Why do you think
And
the CIA? Why do you think the CIA would want to change the narrative, Barrister Ogebe?
That is what we're talking about. Anything that, you see, there's a saying that success has many fathers and failure is an orphan. You know, look at some of the efforts we did. Like I took Chibok girls to America and put them in schools. People who didn't do that, who had no vision, now began to compete against me. Now went to go and carry the girls and to go and claim credits for what they didn't do. This is the kind of world in which we are.
Barrister, let's talk about that aspect. There is another side some people are alluding to, that the hashtag BBOG was somewhat of a cash cow for some NGOs to actually make money from international donors. What's your position on that?
I don't know how it was a cash cow to make money for international donors. Because what I can tell you is this. The international community contributed billions of of dollars to Nigeria to make schools safe. And from that time till now, schools have not been made safe in Nigeria. I can tell you that I sponsored Chibok girls to the United States who were not being taken care of by the Nigerian government. And guess what? Up till now, as I'm speaking to you, those that the Nigerian government took over, if you hear how much they have spent on them, millions, you cannot see a commensurate graduation and qualification compared to those who millions were not spent on.
That's really sad.
So,
That's really sad because in your report, you also cited that federal rights groups and stakeholders criticized the Nigerian government for the treatment of the freed girls who were held in Abuja, were not allowed to see their parents as well. Can you share more about that?
you see, it's a very sad situation. You see, uh, when Amina Ali came out back from captivity, she was held incommunicado in the villa and in other locations for a long time. And in fact, it was so bad they were bringing a malam to come and instruct her in religious studies. And at a point, she had to protest and say, "Ah, I was a Christian when I was abducted. I have escaped. Why are you forcing me and bringing me an instructor in Islam? I'm supposed to be free now. Let me go back to my religion." So that was a problem. The government was trying to force her into the religion that the terrorists had forced her into. Then, of course, the issue of releasing her to her family, they did not do that, as you saw in the article. Now, when the other 21 girls came back, the same thing, they kept them in Abuja for a long time, didn't allow them go to their village. In fact, one of the girls who came back attempted suicide while in the custody of the Nigerian government. Attempted suicide. So the question arose, why would a girl who was in the forest with Boko Haram and didn't attempt suicide now is freed and is in Abuja now want to commit suicide under the Nigerian government? That tells you that conditions under the Nigerian government were worse than conditions under Boko Haram in the forest. Now, let me even
Now,
go a step further. One of the girls who was taken from my sponsorship here in the US, one of the Chibok girls who was taken from my sponsorship here in the US, she was living in a $2 million house here in America. The Nigerian government took her and put her in an apartment in the Bronx ghetto in New York. Sometime later, I heard that she attempted suicide. So anything that the Nigerian government involves itself in is bad for whoever is under it. If you look at the Nigerian country now, it is bad for whoever is under it. That is why people are fleeing. And that is exactly what happened to them.
these are very serious allegations, Barrister Ogebe. Did you, bring these things up before now? And exactly, based on your submissions, could we allude to the sense that these girls, the way they were treated and the approach, the seemingly nonchalant approach to their kidnap was because they were not Muslims?
You see, the facts of the matter are very clear. Chibok, Chibok is the most Christian local government in the whole of Borno State. And
We
guess
can't hear
what? It
you
is the
clearly.
only.
Your audio seems to be muffled.
I said Chibok is the most Christian local government in the whole of Borno State. And so 90% of the girls that were abducted were Christians. Over 276 girls were taken away. And as we speak, over 90 of those girls are still till today, 10 years later. All right, let us look at Dapchi. Dapchi was predominantly Muslim girls that were taken. Only one was Christian. After 1 month, all the girls came back. Only one girl didn't come back. And the only one girl that didn't come back was Leah, the Christian. How can you say that it is not a factor of religion?
That's really sad. That's really sad, Barrister Ogebe. Now, looking at all these allegations right now, do you think, what can we learn from what has happened in 2014? Do you think government has taken steps? You talked about the issues of the Safe School Initiative, which was actually brought up by Gordon Brown, if I'm correct, spearheaded by him through the UN, to ensure that these schools are safer, children can go to schools. Do you think government has actually responded to the insecurity concerning the schools?
Well, from my recollection, a minimum of about $44 million was contributed by, I believe it was Japan, Canada, and several countries. $44 million was contributed for Safe Schools Initiative. As at 1 to 2 years ago, it was reported that Nigerian schools are still less than 50% safe. So it is clear. And when it comes to mass school abductions, Nigeria is still the school mass abductions capital of the world. Last month, in the first week of March, over 200 school students were abducted from one school in one day. Since Chibok, there have been nothing less than half a dozen mass school abductions, equivalent to what happened in Chibok. So the situation in Nigeria has deteriorated. It hasn't improved. So there's nothing to be happy or proud about whether we have learned any lessons since.
Are you aware of the status of Chibok right now, especially the schools? Because when this incident happened, the schools were burnt down and total facility was destroyed. Are you aware if government has replaced those structures, if those facilities have been replaced?
Well, there was a lot of controversy because the federal government gave the Nigerian Army, I believe it was the Corps of Engineers or so, I don't know if it was 2.5 billion to rebuild the school. And they were supposed to rebuild the school. And then there was a tug of war because Borno State wanted to rebuild the school. You see, at a point it became over who will get the contract, who will do this, who will do that. There was a lot of infighting, and which delayed it for years. But my understanding is that it has now been rebuilt, but I don't know the condition and status of the school. But I can tell you that we were on a fact-finding mission to Dapchi, Leah School, on the 6th anniversary of her abduction in February. And the school is abandoned. Leah School is abandoned. And animals have taken over. There are no classes going on, nothing.
Okay, let's take some sound bites from 5 years, after the kidnap, from activists who took to the streets to protest for the return of these girls. Let's hear their words and find out if anything has changed since then.
All we need is for our children, our people to continue to further their excursions. But for now, 2 years, no school, no learning in Chibok.
We have been begging government to open even a secondary school, government secondary school for boys. Up to now, nothing. Only this female school. And the female school now, where is it? Huh? And really Boko Haram has achieved their aim by saying that they don't want the Western education.
You know, we are redundant. We are abandoned by the government, in fact. We are very sorry to mention. Because since this thing happens, we have a lot of children just living at home without doing anything. And we are poor enough, no road, no market, no water supply, no electricity.
When I see my daughter coming back to me, I will feel such joy in my heart. All the sickness and other things will disappear, and I will be very happy in my life.
It is exactly 5 years today. We know Nigerian government has tried. Soldiers too, they have tried. But up to now, we are still looking for 112 girls in the hand of captors. Of which we as a parent, we want guard intervention.
All right, and that brings back some memories. Parents at that time, you know, asking government, bring back their girls, bring back their children. And right now, it's only about 90, over 90 are still in captivity. Barrister Ogebe, how do you think the parents have given up on these children? Apparently, it looks like a lost cause. Who do they turn to? How do they get redress in all of this? It seems they've been forgotten and left behind.
You know, it's a very sad situation indeed. I never forget, you know, one of the Chibok girls, one of the 10 Chibok girls I brought to America. She phoned me from school one day and she said, "Uncle, my auntie called me and she said that is there anybody who is still talking about our missing daughters in America?" And I told her, I said that Uncle Emmanuel is the only one who is still talking. And she said, "Tell him to please remember to talk about my daughter." And so I asked her to give me the auntie's number, and I have been in touch with the auntie, you know. And, you know, I tried to continue to speak up. But sadly, the sad thing is that in Nigeria, people don't understand how to separate human rights from politics. You don't know how to separate wrong from right. Any human being born of a woman should understand the importance of trying to recover a child for its parents. It's not an APC issue, it's not an APDP issue, it is a humanity issue. It is a kingdom issue. So long as you were created in the image of God, you should see divinity in trying to restore a child to his parents. How the Buhari administration decided that this was a basis for attacking people who spoke out that they should help bring the children back is another issue altogether. True, the Jonathan administration felt that it was an attack on the administration, but they did not attack with violence. What they did was, you know, with propaganda, they shared money to lobbyists. They paid a lobbyist in America $1 million to fight us. But when Buhari regime came in, they came in with military intelligence, military operations, NSA. They were fighting us with debt, real debt. I had to sue them in court. They said they would revoke my Nigerian passport. The Nigerian ambassador in Washington wrote a memo to revoke my Nigerian passport. I had to report them to the US government because it was a crime. So that was how bad it was. And so we were the ones who were giving hope to the parents because we kept speaking and encouraging them. But the fight became too much, and some of them succumbed. A lot of them died. From my understanding, over 25 parents died. One of the girls who came back last year, when she came back 2 weeks after her father died. So her father did not live to see the return of his daughter 2 weeks later. But I will tell you this, the mere fact that girls came back three three girls came back 9 years after tells you that there is hope. That even where the government failed to rescue them, the girls are rescuing themselves. But I must say we have to give some credit to the Nigerian military because it is their operations that are creating the enabling environment to help these girls come out. One of my happiest days was recently when I was in Nigeria, I think it was last year. I was watching TV and I saw the First Lady, Remi Tinubu, on TV hugging a Chibok girl who had just escaped. You know, it really touched me because it wasn't over politicized like the Buhari era. You know, she hugged her, welcomed her, and spoke kindly to her. You know, so I think that there is hope that with the proper, military action and the girls continuing to escape by themselves, that we will get more and more of the girls back. But let me be clear. As I said in my article just released yesterday, part 2 of my article, 10 reasons why the US did not rescue the Chibok girls.
Mr. Ogebe, we'll take a quick break.
Yes.
When we come back, we want you to give us those 10 reasons. And before we begin to talk about the impact on the victims, and as you have given some light of hope that it's possible that these girls can still return, we'd like to see how possible that is. Stay with us.
Stay up to date with LN 24/7. LN 24/7. With news, politics, business, sports, and more on LN 24/7. Where the story goes, we go.
We must not allow fear to stand in our way. I have fought against white domination.
No, we are not satisfied, and we will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream.
Great to have you back. You're still watching The Agenda, and yeah, we've been reflecting on the moments, the emotions surrounding the Chibok school kidnap 10 years after today, when 276 girls of Chibok school were taken away. Until date, about 91 are still in captivity. My guest, Emmanuel Ogebe, a human rights lawyer, has been very much involved in the seeing the return of these girls. Right from the moment these things happened, he's been in the thick of things and shares with us and clarifying some of the narratives, giving us the right record of what actually happened. Well, Barrister, thank you for sharing more insights on this, and you especially were pained when the U.S. The book Sisterhood was giving the wrong narrative, and you have 10 reasons to actually assert that that account was totally wrong. Can you quickly share those 10 reasons that you have to share with us before we move into other things?
Well, there are so many of them. I don't know that I can go into all of them offhand. But let me start with the one that pained me the most, which was, you know, why don't you, if you have it in front of you, number 10, if you don't mind reading it, since I don't have it in front of me.
I actually don't have it here, but I know you are. I thought you would have it, being
Okay.
the writer,
Okay.
and
All right.
you
So
would have the account with you.
let me say, yeah, let me just say it briefly. So reason number 10 was the book claims that, according to the CIA, they wanted to recover all of the girls, but according to them, some of the girls didn't want to come back because they didn't want to leave their babies behind, and so they just brought, 30 of them, and then they brought one or two of them in trickles later. And so I am saying, is the CIA trying to tell us that they went to Sambisa Forest, they captured or they gathered all the Chibok girls, and they said, yeah, we are here to carry you people back home. And some of them say, no, I can't leave my baby behind, though, so I'm not coming. And then the say, okay, all right, since you're not coming, all right, we're only going to carry 30 of you. The 30 of you come, let's go. Does that make sense? That doesn't make sense in any world. Because the CIA cannot do that to its own American citizens. Because they understand the concept of Stockholm syndrome, which is that somebody who has been in captivity for so long would have now developed a mental condition of empathizing with their captors as a coping mechanism. They are not thinking straight. So you will rescue them and bring them out to a normal environment where they now normalize and can think and function properly for themselves. These girls who were taken as teenagers and have been subject to abuse, you mean that they were in a right thinking state at that point? That is totally not feasible. It makes no sense.
Barrister Ogebe,
And so that is why,
can you wade into this
yes,
for me? I'd like you to
yes.
share your thoughts on this very critical issue. It's been a very source of huge debate. The issue of amnesty for those who perpetrated these crimes against children like this, and the impact it will have on the victims. Like you said, Amina's mother, still having faith in the Nigerian government. How will this affect those who have been adversely affected by these kidnappings, where the children have been taken away from them? And the government now giving amnesty to over 200 repentant, as it says, Boko Haram terrorists.
You see, what we have in Nigeria is not amnesty, we have impunity. And any system where there is impunity is not a system. Jungle, where anybody can do and undo without consequence. There's no rule of law. That is not a civilization. The wives of Boko Haram terrorists, they are living where they are kept is more luxurious than the IDP camps of victims. They operate in dollars and euros, whereas in IDP camps, the women have to perform sex acts just to get basic amenities from camp officials. These are all documented things that are going on. In fact, women in IDP camps were so deprived that they went out in search of what to eat, and hundreds of them were abducted in the first week of March by Boko Haram. So what has happened in Nigeria is that aggressors have been so pampered and victims have been so deprived that it is now we're teaching our society a distorted value system, that it is better to be an aggressor than to be a victim, that it is a crime and it is an honor to be an aggressor. So I was very sad when I saw that one of the terrorists who abducted the Chibok was given a light prison sentence. And I said to myself, what kind of justice is this? The girls are not back, and yet this man has been given a sentence he will serve, and he might even be released early under amnesty, and he will go, and the parents are still there. They will never see their daughters, and this man has gone scot-free. And that is not justice. You cannot create a society based on such a distorted value system.
I'd like to ask you I'd like to ask you two questions in one here, sir. Do you think that religion has played a critical role in what has happened here? And you think that this was part of the grand plan, talking about removing President Goodluck Jonathan from power? Do you think this was, politically motivated at the beginning?
I mean, no, you see, religion has always been a factor. There's no two ways about it. You can imagine that when Jonathan lost power, there's a phone recording of how Shetima, who presided over the state of Borno when the abductions occurred, despite the warnings that were given him by Jonathan's administration, was congratulating and celebrating the fact that the president of his own party had been defeated by the opposition. It is there, and it is known. So these factors are all part of the reality of what is going on in northern Nigeria. You see, and it cannot be discounted. So anyway, that's the short answer to that. It has always been there. I don't know when we will come out of it. And let's not forget that I won't even go into that. But let me add another reason why, from the 10 reasons why I said the CIA did not rescue the Chibok girls. Reason number one was that CIA report in that book said that the school was a Christian boarding school. You and I know that it was not a Christian boarding school. It was a government girls' secondary school. How could the CIA be so daft as to call a government girls' secondary school a Christian boarding school? That's not possible. That tells you that they just manufactured a story to give themselves, what the Nigerians call clout. That's not true. It didn't happen. Another reason out of my 10 reasons
because our time is going. Let's talk about advocacy. Okay. How do we prevent this from happening again? How do we stop this? How do we bring this to the world to see what is happening here to prevent? Apparently, it doesn't seem like the stop gaps that have been put in place, like the Safe School initiative, are being implemented. So how do we bring this to a stop? You have alluded to religious tilts in this matter, especially citing the recent kidnap of about 200 schoolgirls, I think from on the 7th of March, abducted from the northwestern town of Kuriga in Chikun local government area. And you said because they were predominantly Muslim, all those girls were returned. Now, how do we stop this and see that things are dealt with on a level playing field?
Well, to be frank, you see, we have to reverse the incentive structure of kidnapping. For so long as we incentivize kidnapping and we do not provide consequences for kidnapping, it will flourish in our society. There's a reason why the US does not negotiate with terrorists when it comes to kidnapping. because it then becomes a cottage industry, which is what has happened in Nigeria. Everybody now wants to be a kidnapper. That's why, the Fulanis have found out that it is more profitable to kidnap an infidel than to follow cows in the bush. So this is a better business model for them. So we have to implement our laws and make it unprofitable and unsustainable to kidnap. We have to fortify our schools. We have to, as far as possible, end the boarding school system as far as possible. There's no need to create soft targets of our children. The era when we needed boarding schools is over. It was in the olden days when schools were far and in between. Now schools are all over the place. We do not need to put our children in harm's way. So these are some of the few things that need to be done urgently.
All right, I'd like us to take a soundbite from one of our security analysts who's also in the United States, I think Texas to be precise. He did make some submissions on this issue. But I want to take from Dr. Roy Kideve and hear his thoughts before we come back and round it off.
10 years after the Chibok kidnapping, almost 100 still missing. What have we learned? We have not learned anything. One of the reasons why we have not learned anything is that the security architecture, which we always use as a big word, it connotes a change in office, and the office holders are recruited by the political persons in power. So definitely everybody recruits those that will be loyal and pay allegiance to them. So who will you serve if not your master that brought you into office, and you garner all your boys under you? So the IG will only serve the person that is in power. The Chief of Army Staff, Chief of Defense, all the service chiefs, the NSA, the Honorable Minister of Defense, they are all brought into power not by the culture of the organization they belong to. Like the army, where I come from, it has a culture, a succession plan. The Navy, the Air Force, the police, they all have succession plans by their instigated authority. But the politicians took over, and once you come, you dump everything, you follow the script of the current government, and that is where we are. We can't trace people, we can't trace data. We can, but we can't apply the results of our intelligence gathering and intelligence job. We have great police officers, we have great intelligentsia, we have great military officers, but they are cut short by the government of the day.
Well, there you have it. Dr. Roy Kideve there sharing his thoughts. As we go, Barrister Ogebe, what would you want to leave with our viewers right now as we mark 10 years from the Chibok schoolgirl kidnapping?
Well, I would certainly want to ask the new administration to redouble efforts to make a commitment to recover these girls. At least, Senator Remy said that a girl was recovered under the administration, and I hope that they will make an effort to recover more. The fact that they got back some girls in Kaduna, some students in Kaduna, is a good sign. But I also want to use the opportunity to throw a challenge to the Nigerian government. I want them to show the money that they spent on the girls in America, the dollars they spent from the Nigerian economy. I will show the dollars that I spent from the US economy. Let them show Nigerians the dollars they spend from the Nigerian economy on those girls. I ask them to publicly show it. Let's compare receipts. Let Nigerians see the millions of dollars they spent, and let me show what I spent. Thank you.
Thank you, Barrister, for sharing your thoughts. It's been great having you. We look forward to more experiences with you on these issues. Well, that's where we will draw the curtain as we commemorate the 10th anniversary of the Chibok school mass kidnapping. We must reaffirm our commitment to justice, accountability, and solidarity with the victims and their families. And while progress has been made, much work remains to be done to ensure that such atrocities are never repeated. Like my guests have said, it is imperative that the Nigerian government, in collaboration with its partners, redoubles its effort to combat terrorism, promote peace and reconciliation, and address the root causes of conflict and insecurity. Only then can we honor the memory of the Chibok girls and build a more secure and prosperous future for all Nigerians. And as I always say, only Nigerians can build Nigeria. Well, thank you for staying with us on today's edition of the program. My name is Henry Williams. The conversation continues on all our platforms, including X, YouTube, Facebook, and what have you. Thanks for staying with us, and see you same time on this station. Bye for now.
Stay up to date with LN 24/7. LN 24/7. With news, politics, business, sports, and more on LN 24/7. Where the story goes, we go.